turtles I rescued some years back now, and I'm gonna put them out there in the pond because I'm gonna ultimately have that pond enclosed and enclosed again, so nothing's gonna escape the yard or the pond area is the whole idea really. And I'm going to be cutting channels through the yard and some spots to run streams. That's another big thing. So I got to get a water pump and hook up the waterfall too. So that's another one of the things that I got to do with the pond. I'm like I have endless ideas for the pond and the ways that it can be a resource because it is. It's redundancy in the fact that it's like a prep. Has some thousands of gallons of water. I'm thinking like, dude, you could even build some kind of grate over top of your pond and keep it thawed. The way my pond's built, I could like build a structure over top of it and keep it thawed with like a fire and a hut built through the winter if need be to keep that thing thawed. I could thaw it out and get to the fish or get to just some water. Have an abundant amount of maggot buckets to feed the chickens and the ducks, and that'll be such a good regenerative method of feeding them protein source. So the flies will go in the bucket, the 5-gallon buckets. They'll create the maggots in the meat and the scraps, and then they'll crawl out of the holes and they'll drop down to the animals to eat. And then saving up hay bales for them all season long from everything I can harvest. That will be, well, substitute for the rabbits and even the birds through the winter. And then the roaches will be for mainly the winter time. I'll really work on getting those numbers up during the summer while they're eating from the maggot buckets. And then I'll have all those roaches to get them through the winter. Where I'm doing my processing, harvesting of the animals. I got a light here. I gotta screw this and straighten this out a little bit, but it's like a roof for me to work under. And I got this table, my baskets, but these are the kill cones. The chickens are going. Scraps I'm saving for the maggot buckets. That's guillotine for my rabbits, so it's an instant dispatch. This is also a hopper popper for the rabbits, for their neck, and that breaks. And I don't like that because it can be more violent, a little more traumatic. I'm all about the instant kill and making it as humane as possible. There's also a bolt gun that I bought and tried originally, but you got to hit them right on the right spot of the head, and I'm not about that method either because you can miss and it can be traumatic as well. And then this will be where the rabbits hang, and you can open them up and then do the processing. The skin and fur of the rabbit, and then the feet, the limbs will give to the animals. And most of the innards, the intestines, is what I'm going to be saving for the maggot buckets. But the animals can eat the intestines as well, the dogs. Just I'm not going to feed them to them as much, but they will. My dogs will eat those too. And my dogs have never been healthier or looked better than they do right now after eating animals. Well, the carcass and whatever's on them, which is a lot of fat, and the bones, they're small game animals, and as long as it's all raw, that's what your canines, your wolves, are supposed to be eating. My chicken's in here scraping at some grassy stuff I threw in here from last season. It had a bunch of worms in it. There's 5 chickens in here now under the deck coop, and they're scraping around getting this ready. I'm gonna probably section it off and use the back half and grow food and leave them up in this front section. And then this is the rabbit run. This is Operation Quickfoot from last year I built, and over there's another run for a different breed of rabbits and chickens. And then over here is 4 rows. I think it's 30 inches. They just stretch down. That way I can hover over them. I got garlics in this row, all coming up, bunch of them, which is really, really sweet. I've got some garlics even back there that are from last season that are kind of like volunteers. I forgot a couple of them, and then a few of them are still, I left there to grow. And then I'm going to put stuff in here. I'm not sure what. I had potatoes in here last year. I'm not going to do potatoes in here again. On these trellises last year was tomatoes. I'm going to do peas to start, and then transition into cucumbers and pole beans. And I don't know how she got out. I must have hopped out from in there. I left it down. The pond is just about cut, and I'm gonna get ready to put the plastic in. I gotta get the deep end measured down to 36 inches and make sure it's that deep, at least 2 feet, to try to keep it from freezing this winter and through the winters, to keep a species of fish dormant down there. Not sure which species yet. If you guys know which type is best for my grow zone 6B in southeast Michigan, what type of fish could survive down there, that's gonna be like 6 feet deep at the very bottom, and then down in here is like 3.5 feet. And it will be great. I'm gonna put the pond liner in next. Duck house. I'm gonna also build like lily pads that I can walk across like a frog. And then I'm gonna put a spigot on the front to feed the gardens, and a waterfall, and aerators, and my turtles, and whatever other life comes along with it. The rivers that I'm gonna cut through the yard. I don't know how or where yet, but I'll get to that. And all along this trellis will be beans. I was thinking originally tomatoes, but I'm gonna have rabbits in here, and I think tomato leaves are toxic for the rabbits, so that wouldn't be a good idea. So, but beans are very edible, and if they get to eating at some of them, with them growing on there, no big deal. That's great for them. I can share. Over here is wood and compost that I'm making, and strawberries all up in here. And then there's a patch over there beyond this circle of strawberries that I'm going to grow something in. I just don't know what yet. I got 2 apple trees and my rabbit tractor. And over here, the pit. So the pit, sunken greenhouse. So my idea here is the walls are probably going to come up another foot from dirt that I'm getting out of there still. And then there's going to be 4 rows in there, same way, like 30 inches, and 1 aisle down the middle, and then a row and a row, and then an aisle, and there'll be another row which will be like the wall of the pit, and it'll be on an incline, and I'll have to build like a retaining wall to hold in dirt so I can grow food along the walls of this greenhouse. And then in the back end of it will be, I'm going to try a couple different fruit trees, some cold hardy stuff in the back 2 corners, and then in the center of the back will be a compost pile. And that compost pile, I'm going to try to keep it so it's churning, so it stays hot and keeps the whole thing hot and well warm enough to keep things growing through the winter. And it'll be laid out a lot of way like the indoor grow room, kind of, where I have trees in the back corners, and then the heat source inside, which is the wood burning stove I set up. It'll be the same type of way with a compost pile keeping it warm. And then it'll be the greenhouse plastic on a frame that I build out of pallet wood. And then there'll be walls built with food growing on the incline. I'll secure it with some retaining wall that I build out of pieces of logs. Slice them, hit them with my axe, and break them into smaller slivers, and stick them in the dirt to hold the compost back to grow food in along the walls, so it doesn't, well, wash away, and it holds all that fertile soil. And I'll be able to walk, and there'll be 4 beds of food with a compost pile down the middle in the back, and that compost will keep it warm. I hope that'll work. I think it'll work great. And then in here is berries, strawberries, blackberries. I even have blueberries at each section here, and those should still come up. And then there's raspberries there and there, so those will come up along the incline of this greenhouse once it's built. So this is like berries, and then there's 4 rows here where I'm gonna put potatoes, squash or watermelons, maybe down there, and then in here will be some potatoes, probably 2 to start. I got a lot of potatoes and I got to get them in everywhere I can, and so that'll be that there. And then I think in that one too, inside the run here, is going to be potatoes as well. And then that's a peach tree. I did just extend this whole area here. I kind of custom built this temporary frame setup where it's not completely framed in, but there's this hardware cloth and it's stretched out. There's a T I built here and stapled this to kind of hold it up, and then it's stretched out down to that corner to enclose this whole area. And now I opened it by cutting a couple doors. One door is cut there, and then I removed the chicken wire from right here and allowed them out. And they get in here and they lay their eggs, and then they lay their eggs in there and in there, and then they got the whole yard out there. And there's another door cut down there. Then I've got this feeder set up for their eggshells now, so they reach up and in there and they peck at those. It's around the back of this hutch, which is open for egg laying. They go in there and lay eggs even. And then over here is the silver fox rabbits, which are just hanging out, and they got their own area. My neighbor's gonna bring over a whole bunch of wood chips and some leaves and stuff, and I'm going to use them because I'm building compost this year. I'm focusing hard on producing a ton of compost because it's going to be very valuable for my garden and yours, and it might just catch a real good price on the market. So a couple piles here that I've been working on for a little over a year now, and the ones in the back, and I'm really working them to get them to break down quicker. Learning more about that still, but the idea is get it going, get them big, get them right, get them at a nice size we can work around them and turn stuff into them. It's manure, leaves, a leaf litter, you know, bedding from the animals, even green clippings. All that stuff is biodiverse and is active. Soon it will be really good to put on the beds. Here is leaves and straw, like some old straw that was covering some of the rows out in the garden. And it's going to be used for animal bedding. So I'm not going to ever buy bedding again. No more wood chips. Straw, maybe here and there. I'll probably buy some straw just because it's real clean for nesting boxes and stuff. Until I find my own regenerative clean method for that, which I'm going to. I'll figure that out. Maybe just some really good grass. So if I save the really good grass each season, I can use that for nest boxes. Really, it's just going to be leaf litter, and any grass that rakes up going forward it'll just get used for bedding. So no more buying that material. Completely regenerative. It's the whole nature of the game. And if the power goes out today, do I have water? Do I have ways to continue to harvest and grow my own food and get my own clean water for indefinitely for the generations to come? And continue learning all the skills and pass those skills on to everybody. Everyone. It's like everybody forgot them. So you gotta teach them again. I'm breeding roaches for my chickens for the winter so they have that feed. I've got some sprouts here coming up, little seedlings that I can still transplant out there. And these are peppers under some heat, 85 degrees Fahrenheit to get them going. I got Mama down here with her babies. I got to go ahead and get her some water and some chips, some feed for her. I got to organize this stuff in here. This is supplies and things. And I'm going to set up another roach bin, 2 more in here. and I'm going to bring some more animals in here and get this room set up to house the roaches and some animals and my seed starts. So I got another piece of wood here that I'm going to use as a table to put these more seeds on, and I'm going to set that up somehow. I got another light that I'm ordering this week, so it will give me more light here for my starts. I got these trellises that I'm going to put on the walls in the grow room out there and get the cucumbers growing on them. These beans, and then there's stuff down here that still hasn't even come up. These asparagus and fruit seeds. It's just moringa. Then I got the broccolis that actually started popping up, Walthams, and then a calabrese green sprouting. And there is also the cabbage in here, and then all these trees. Already growing about 90, well, I'm about 90% sustainable as far as my food goes. And growing it all and having it all prepped up and on deck for, well, 10 plus years of stored foods that I have prepped away, that I'm eating through now and cycling through them. But I'm growing most everything. So my animals, in the regenerative practice of feeding them from the land going forward and getting them completely regenerative off the land, and growing the vegetables and then eating my preps. And I've simplified my diet to such a degree where it's all organic, whole foods, clean, filtered water, always. So it's so clean and as best as I can get it, unless I were to literally grow like hydroponic indoors with filtered water and some really good soil that's never seen toxins or polluted water. How else can you get it cleaner? In like a closed biodome or something. Other than that, I'm doing it complete conviction, and it's got me to the point where I don't have to go to the store. Last time I went to the grocery store was 3 weeks ago, and I literally picked up like 3 things. Beef, organic grass-fed beef, for whatever that's worth, until I can get my own red meat, which are the ducks, the Muscovies. And that's a red meat, so that's why I'm getting the Muscovies. They're called Muscovies. I've heard them said both ways, but I think it's Muscovy. And those will have red meat with fat on them. Those ducks are big, and those will eat from the maggot buckets, and they'll eat the roaches and all the stuff I harvest. Squared away, animals. And then the food, I'm growing food, and I know how to do all that and preserve and store it up. I'm water glassing eggs now, overwintering things like potatoes and winter squash and your garlics and onions and even some root crops. You can store all that stuff up in root cellars in sand. So I won't have to have the bill come hyperinflation, which looks like it's here today, tomorrow. Just saw a report saying that Germany is hiking their food 20-50% in the morning, like Monday. And when I drop this video, it'll be Monday, but it's just insane. So I don't go to the store, no more of that. It's unhealthy. It's all GMO'd, pesticided, and microplastics, and, fluoride, heavy metals, and whatever, name it. The list goes on and on of the toxins that get in your blood and in your brain and lower your IQ and make you infertile and unhealthy and inflamed and diseased. All that I'm mitigating and never having in my life ever, because I'm going to be doing everything completely clean and holistic, completely regenerative, closed loop in the future here, and then spreading the knowledge in the community and getting everybody to work together and be constructive, solutions based, not having problems but having solutions to everything. And that just goes with the healthy state of mind from the healthy state of being.